Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. Our topic for today is rewiring the product playbook with AI. And to help us with that topic, we have Matt Waxman, CPO at Arctera. Matt has over 25 years of executive product leadership experience, driving multi-billion-dollar portfolios, scaling SaaS and enterprises and startups. As for me, I'm your host, Mustafa Kapadia. I help product organizations figure out how to use AI so they can be more effective and efficient. You can learn more about me and my services at echo-point.com. Matt, welcome to the show. I love this topic. This topic is so close and dear to my heart. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Thanks
Likewise.
for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And don't worry, I get called Max at least once a week, so it's totally.
You know what? I apologize. I don't know if I shared this with you, but I am actually mildly dyslexic, so sometimes I get the two mixed up. So I apologize. But
it's very common. So I don't take any offense to it.
No worries. But Matt, welcome. And by the way, if we have people joining in on LinkedIn, please let us know where you are from. Please introduce yourselves in the comments. And by the way, this is open forum. So if you have any questions for Matt or myself, we would love to hear you. The more we hear from you, the more interesting this becomes. Matt, if it's okay, why don't we kind of start with the big picture as people are filing in, right? Just tell me more about the team that you manage right now, right? A little bit about Arctera. What's the type, your team size? What are you guys doing? What are the different roles? Because we really want to get into how AI is impacting all of those things.
Yeah. I'd love to. I think the context is important because, everyone's applying and learning AI in different ways, and our context matters to understand our story. So Arctera is a data management company. It is about a $400 million ARR business built of 3 product lines. The product team is a globally distributed team of about 450 people.
Perfect.
In product management, in development, and architecture, cloud operations, design. Nice. In there. And the team is really aligned and built around each of the product lines. So Perfect. We have been built for speed and efficiency nice. And autonomy. So each product line has a leader that Perfect. Is empowered to go and drive their roadmap and execution against the business nice. Objectives.
Nice. And I like it. If you don't mind me asking, of the 400 and some odd people that you have in the product organization, how many of them are in the engineering side versus the product side?
Yeah, the product side is probably about 50 of those out of the 450.
Yeah, that's good. So you have a very healthy ratio between engineering and PMs.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you for that background. So if that's where you guys are now, tell me how either one of those teams are using AI, right? How is your PMs using AI? How are your designers using AI? I'm assuming out of that 50, you have designers, yes.
Right.
And then how is your engineering using AI?
Yeah. Well, I think our story, what I find talking to a lot of people in the industry is a lot of people are pretty deep now into AI.
Yeah.
They've all gotten there in different ways. So
yeah.
Our journey actually started more with design
as
the starting point. And the reason for that really comes down to people. It's very much
Always.
Who has the passion and energy and curiosity to go learn, new space, new tools, new processes. And so we had some great folks in the design team who were super eager to start exploring it. And it was fascinating to see them go through that process. So started there. We have code generation that is being done as well. To a little bit more limited extent, because we're finding use cases that are more applicable than others in there. We'll talk about that more. And then also in the product management space, doing requirements, customer gathering, summarization, competitive information,
right?
Sort of typical use cases now.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think what you said is right on point. It really depends on the people and how close and how much they gravitate towards AI and so on. What were some of the early cases that design started using AI for? Or what were some of the early cases that kind of surprised you and said, oh, you know what? There's something here.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have Matt Lip who made a comment. But Matt, your comment didn't come through. All I say is a question mark. So if you have a question, please let us know.
So yeah, I would say in terms of surprise, so when you think about the typical process you go through in any product lifecycle, it starts with a conversation with a customer, oftentimes could be represented through sales, about an enhancement, a feature that a customer needs.
Right.
You got one data point, you go and maybe talk to 5 other customers to see if that's a valid data point and refine it and so forth. Then you go stick it on the roadmap.
Right.
Eventually it gets into a backlog. Then some months later, it gets picked up by the team and gets wireframed and then prototyped, so on and so. It takes a long time to do this. And in that whole process, things change. Time goes on.
100%.
Right? Requirements change.
Yeah.
And so what really surprised me was that, again, back to the passion and curiosity from the design team, they looked at it and said, well, a lot of the steps in that process we could actually do using AI. So we could build customer personas using AI.
100%.
We could then generate designs based off of this, elaborating on the customer problem.
Yes.
And then the surprising piece to me that I just found was kind of brilliant was the recursive loop around that, which is you could take the designs and then feed them back in to validate them against what the persona was looking for.
I think that's great because that, synthetic users, which is basically what you guys are doing, is a fantastic, it's a brand new capability that we've never had before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the idea that you can actually have a synthetic or a digital twin of your user base, and then you can use some early validation to do that. That's fantastic, right? Because you're right, things change so much, and it's kind of nice to go and be able to have a customer on tap. Right now, I'm sure your design team knows that you cannot replicate real user interaction, but it's great for early process, right?
Exactly.
What I also like about your story, Matt, is that starting with design is an unusual pattern. It's been my experience that most of it starts at the product side, right? Or sometimes the engineering side, and then engineering speeds up, and then on like product and design is like, oh shit, we got to figure out how to match that case. So I love the fact that you're doing that. So once it started with design, where did you see it naturally kind of adopt or gravitate? Did you see that other people are now looking at design saying, how can I do that? How did it spread?
Yeah, my belief in these things is, and my learning has been that a change like this that is so pervasive around AI and so ubiquitous, right? Every function in a company can leverage AI to some extent. It's very much an approach where leaders have to, walk the walk and talk the talk. So
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, like, the design lead who was driving all of this started demoing as much as he could internally to people. And, you get all sorts of different reactions. You get some people who react to, there's no way we could build that.
Yeah.
That like you went from 0 to 100 so fast that there's no way I can build that, to, wow, if you could generate that, could you generate the code behind it?
Yes.
By the way, of course, all the tools do that.
Yes.
So it certainly piqued people's curiosity, and I think started to create a bit of a flywheel of, if design is starting to think that way and operating that way, then are we going to become the bottleneck now? So maybe we should start to pick up,
And trust me, I've seen that over and over again. It's that some part of the organization picks it up and really adopts it, and then suddenly everybody else around them becomes a bottleneck.
Yeah.
Right. And this happened like with maybe two or three clients earlier this year, in which the PM team really sped up and they were able to go much faster. And now suddenly design and engineering are like, oh my God. Right. Which is, by the way, a healthy tension. It's not a bad thing.
It is. There's been all these models for years that we've all tried around a triad, right?
Yes.
Design, PM, engineering work together, through problems. But there was still always some handoff, some siloing that happened through that. Primarily, I think, driven because of time. It just took so long that it's natural. People are doing their day job during the time. Well, now you can get in a room together, and literally build the prototype together in an hour.
Yeah.
So
and that changes the entire process, right?
Yeah.
I agree with you, because now instead of quote unquote a PM working in their own cubicle, writing requirements, then handing off to design doing their own thing, and then handing off to engineering. Just put all of the three of them in the room. Each one of them, if frankly speaking, they write requirements in real time.
Yeah.
Right? And that requirement spits out some type of prototype, and it's all done within a couple hours.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have the code in the back end. That helps. It changes the equation.
Completely. Yeah, I think we're like this far away from if your product platform has great APIs.
Yeah.
Then what is the difference between a prototype and a new experience? Right? When a design team can literally generate code and they can plug it in via APIs, and that's all going to get automated anyways.
Yes.
You're going to short circuit the process.
100%. Yes. And I think that goes back to, well, there's larger questions with that one too, because then now, how do you architect your product to be able to absorb those type of changes much faster?
Yeah.
Right. And I think most people aren't even thinking about it that way.
Right.
We've had a few customers in which they are now or clients who are trying to say, okay, if I take a prototype, can I turn it live in my product for just the first 100, 200 users, or whatever that number is? So instead of me trying to do validation, I get real life validation, right? So the process of discovery changes dramatically, right? Because now it's in the flow, it's in the product, and what are you seeing? And then that's a nice way to figure out if you want to build the rest or not. Right. And so if you just open it up to like 100 users, you don't have to worry about all the different scaffolding that engineering has to worry about.
Yeah. And I think it's fascinating because, a lot of the principles, certainly I've held for a long time in product, were things like, when is it appropriate to build new versus refactor, right? If you build new, your estimate is always way, way more aggressive than what reality is. You can't do custom things one-off for customers, right? Because it doesn't scale. I think some of those principles are being challenged, right?
100%.
Because it may actually be way faster these days to just generate new than refactor old.
Yes.
And you can potentially generate experiences for customers that are pretty tailored.
Very unique. Yeah. I mean, you're seeing some of that already, in which AI is allowing, especially advertising, right? The Googles and the Metas of the world are creating AI to create very custom experiences for each one of the cohorts and segments that they cater to. I mean, it's only a matter of time till you get to that point in which software gets there as well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I think the idea that all code is now quote unquote throwaway code. Because ultimately, if you have instead of bolting onto something, you just build something new. It's much faster. And by the way, the AI or the LLMs and the coding tools prefer building from scratch.
And rebuilding from scratch every time.
Right? Yeah. So, and that's just the way it is. I'm curious, has your design, one of the challenges teams have is that, especially with prototyping, is that getting the design and the look and feel has always been tough, right? Given the fact that your design team were one of the first few people to use AI, how have they overcome that challenge?
The design systems still matter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the way that you scale design across products and experiences is by having a design system behind it. This still matters in this space. 100%. I think the tools are maybe lagging a little bit there, but that will change. By the time people are rewatching this, that may have changed, right? So, you want tools that can adhere to your practices. By the way, the same holds for code generation.
Yes.
You want to have some set of practices that are upheld, through that. So I think it's still going to come back to, you need systems to scale.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the tools have to help you to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think getting the look and feel is one of the hardest parts right now, especially when you're doing prototyping or even when you're writing. I think coding is getting easier and easier from everything that I see with things like Cursor. The standardization for coding is actually almost better than sometimes the internal practices.
Yeah.
Right.
It's certainly, in our experience, a bit of a mixed bag, right? I think that if you're taking existing code, the context really matters.
Yes.
And that is still a bit of a challenge, to get that right.
Yeah.
If you're building new, like test automation is a great example of this. We've had a lot of success where, you can go generate automated test cases quite well.
Yeah.
Works
100%.
great, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those, I expect what will happen is the tools will all get better.
Yes.
And best practices will emerge of, where you apply them
How
with
you, yeah.
more oversight
Yeah.
than other areas. And
Yeah. But I think that's also, so I like the way you're thinking, because ultimately, and this comes back to your point earlier, that this has to be driven by leadership, right? Because using a tool is one thing. Using it well to actually make an impact in time or velocity or quality, that's a whole different thing. Because you're absolutely right. All of these guidelines, all of these best practices, structured approaches, even how you write prompts, all of that becomes really important, as opposed to somebody just going out and just experimenting.
yeah.
Right.
We're in a very unique time in that all of these tools are super accessible as consumers. There's free tiers in
Yeah.
basically any one of these solutions. So I think the thing I try to challenge any leader around is go use it yourself. Go
Yes.
try it out. The barrier to entry is so low.
So low. I agree.
And if anything, you may not be the person who's going to be building the product in the end,
Yes.
but you'll have a new perspective. You'll have new ideas, new energy, new ideas to bring into the team
Yeah.
to get that activation energy
Yes.
going.
100%. I think that, on another client I has, we actually sat down, the CPO and I sat down and said, let's just build it together. And it was a great experience, because it's like, oh my God, I can't believe we can do this. So I think that aha moment is really important at the leadership level as well, because they see it, they hear it, they see a lot of noise on LinkedIn, but then actually doing it for your own product, right? That's really where the tube light goes in.
Yeah.
And then like,
And
oh my
then,
God, Mustafa, I
being
can't believe
loud
that
and
we're
proud.
doing this. Yeah.
Like internally, you have to be the champion for that. So finding ways that when you have that aha moment, you're helping others get that and see that as well.
100%. I think that showcasing and mimicking that skills is so important, right? Let me go to, I know we've talked about this briefly, but if you think about where you guys are now, how would you, like, what has been the benefits, right? How has your team actually enjoyed using AI? Has it been speed? Has it been quality? Have you seen other type of benefits? What are you seeing?
Yeah, the question I think that always comes up around these things is, how are you measuring it?
Yeah.
How do you measure productivity improvements, code quality, all these things by these tools? And I actually believe these generally are going in two stages. Your first stage is experimentation, basically creating space for people to try things out, learn, in a safe environment to do that. And then you'll figure it out over time. So I kind of think about this like, it's like electricity. It's like any other productivity tool. You don't question whether you're going to give everyone in the company access to a spreadsheet, Excel, or PowerPoint.
Or Outlook for that matter, or email, right? It's
or
just
email,
integrated. Right.
So I think, it starts really with that. You got to just let people learn and play and experiment and embrace that, celebrate it, so forth.
Yeah.
And then get to the points of starting to figure out how you're going to measure the impact around that. But like my experience, like for us, we're still in the first phase. And when I talk to a lot of peers out there, I think a lot of them are still in that first phase as well. And everyone has the ambition to get to the second phase and start measuring and enforcing and incorporating it into performance management and things like that. But, I don't know that I've met anyone yet that's quite at that stage, any company that's at that stage yet.
Well, you and I talked about this before the interview, but when we did the benchmarking study, you're right on. I think everybody is very much in the first, we have 4 maturity levels. They're in the first 1 and 2, which is experimentation phase.
Yeah.
And it's actually not even experimentation, it's actually workforce activation, right? In which they just want their people to be comfortable and confident with using AI.
Yeah.
Now, we do have a few clients who are now emerging into what you call stage 2, in which you've energized or empowered the individual Now, how do you take that, empower the entire organization and process reengineering and changes and so on and so forth? And I think that's when you start getting real. In phase one, it's individual productivity. In phase two, it's actually organizational productivity and velocity, right?
Right.
So we're seeing a few companies enter that. But you're right, there's not a lot to do that well.
I think one of the elements to that we don't often talk about, which is a little surprising to me, is that, and oftentimes this ends up being the product team that's kind of spearheading it, is getting the company comfortable from a risk, compliance, legal perspective with using all of these tools.
Yes.
Right? It's a big
It's a
issue.
huge blocker, believe it or not. I 100% agree. I'm curious. I'm glad you mentioned that. How did you guys get over that? Because when I talk to people, it's not about, it's really is, how can I get risk and compliance to sign off so I can start using these tools?
Yeah.
Right. How did you guys get over that?
You know, I think it's like building any product roadmap. You have to do it in phases, and you have to do it with influence and so forth. So for us, the path we took was basically twofold. One is use private models as much as possible.
Oh, interesting.
Because that at least alleviates the concern of IP, leakage and things like that. And then the second was, certainly when it came to code, doing it sort of north of an API, right? Start with experimenting. That's where design came in. Like, can you do work where, your APIs are published, it's fairly low risk versus core IP elements to start to get people comfortable with that. And, that was a reasonable way to start. But eventually, and I see this more and more with companies, you just have to go all in at some point. And
at a
there's
certain
risk
point
in
in
everything.
time, you do, because this is unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, this is just the way things are going, right? It's not like you would ever say, I'm not going to give somebody Outlook or Gmail.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And one of my favorite experiences, this is probably, 7-8 years ago, I was working on a SaaS product in a space that was traditionally on-prem, self-managed. And you talk to some customers and they're like, there's no way we can put that data into a SaaS solution. And then you'd ask them, well, are you using, M365? Do you have files in OneDrive? And so of course we do. Well, obviously you are comfortable with having pretty sensitive, critical information in the cloud, right? So, it's inevitable, like you said.
It is inevitable. And I think there's also a level of, I guess, people just don't understand or don't know that the way large language models work is that it's not like it's saving you data in a big database of files, right? It's just not how, first of all, it's just not even practical. And so I think these are new things that people just have to get comfortable with, right? And to understand, because they're always worried about that edge end case of something leaking. And I'm like, that's just not how large language models work, right?
So, not that I'm the, risk and compliance person, but I think one of the underlying shifts that makes that more difficult is we've lived in a world that is largely deterministic when it comes to products, technologies, tools that you're using inside your company. AI is non-deterministic. And so that throws a big monkey wrench into, if you're a risk and compliance person, how do you know what you see today, how it's going to be a week from now?
Well, it's, it's the same thing that what you talked about is going pre-SaaS versus post-SaaS, right? That, or even forget about SaaS, just going to the cloud, right? There was a huge amount of risk that people were like, well, I would never go to the cloud. It's just too much, right? I like my security. I like my postures, just the way things are. And now suddenly you realize that by doing that, you're actually hurting yourself in the long run. So I agree. I think it's both a mindset change and a matter of just being comfortable. Because here's the thing, you may be slowing down, but your competition isn't. And so now you got to figure it out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Two more questions. And I know, listen, I can talk about this. You and I can talk about this forever. I love this. as you're going through this transformation yourself, just given the insights that you have and the way your teams are working, what has been some of the toughest challenges? I think the compliance piece, you're absolutely right. And by the way, our benchmarking data proves that too. What are some of the other challenges that you've had to overcome just to get your team comfortable with experimentation or just using the tools,
Yeah.
right? Because you're managing a lot of emotions, right? This is not just about tools. This is people worry about their job security, or is this, am I losing my creativity? Am I being less human? There's a lot going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a cultural transformation, right?
Yeah.
It comes down to what the values are that you have, how you lead, how you set up the environment for your teams. So, we have, as a company, set our values, and the first one is failing forward. And the whole
Perfect.
notion of
Love it.
that is that the fastest way to make decisions, to make progress, is to move quickly without perfect information. And the only way you can do that well is if you make it safe to be able to
Yeah.
experiment. And
Yeah.
so things aren't going to work all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think it really comes down to the basics. Many of us have been through cultural,
Yeah.
transformations in the past.
Psychological safety is so important.
Yeah, it's really, really important. Like I get so excited when someone shows me an experiment they ran with some new AI tool I haven't heard of. And they're like, let me show you what it did, but let me also tell you about where it completely,
Yes.
failed. Um, because I'm like, well, that's great. I love seeing the curiosity and I love
Yes.
seeing the energy, because what everyone wants for the most productive teams are people who are self-motivated. As long as they're heading in the same direction, you've got them lined up,
Yeah.
then what more could you ask for than people who
100%.
are enthusiastic to do it?
Yeah. Um, I love the fact that you're thinking about it from a culture perspective, because not a lot of people are thinking about it that way. They're thinking still from a tooling strategy perspective. Um, I'm curious, as you go from phase one to phase two, like you talked about, are you thinking about different restructuring the way are you thinking about restructuring your teams? Are you thinking more about using AI into the personal OKRs or performance reviews? Are you hiring differently? Are you thinking about process engineering? Where's the head at, or where's
Yeah.
the organization at?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to come back to this interview a year from now and see
Yeah.
if what I say actually holds up or not, because the space is moving so
Yeah.
fast. And I will embrace the fail forward as much as I expect anyone else on the team to. But I think that the roles are blurring more.
100%.
So I think the more that people embrace the notion that you work together on these problems,
Yeah.
the more successful they will be. If people are going to fight, I don't get to do the design work unless I'm on the design team, even though the tools are accessible to everyone, I think that's a failure mode in the end. So I think that it will certainly blend roles in some
Yes.
way. Will it eliminate roles? There's a lot of, talk like that in the interwebs, but I don't think it will. I think it's just going to shift the way we work in the same way that email did and messaging did, and so forth. I do think I'm a believer in OKRs and having goals, and I think that that's a great way. We have an OKR today
Perfect.
around adoption and embracing.
Oh,
So I
that's
think
great.
that will be, a path forward in there. And then I think the third is you kind of mentioned that you see a lot of people start with the tools.
Yeah.
My belief in this space is I almost don't care which tool, not completely, but I almost don't care which tool we pick, because the tools are moving so fast
Yes.
that literally what we decided on last month may be the
May not
best
work.
tool a year from now
100%.
or the worst tool
Yes.
a year
Yeah.
from now. So I'm like, let's just rent what we can, and we may switch to something else.
And that is the beauty of where we are, is like you can just, there's free tiers and you can rent. And it doesn't cost that much,
Right.
right? Given the benefit that you can get out of using these things.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think I like the idea about tool agnostic, because I think too many CPOs I talk to are like, well, Mustafa, which tool should I get? Well, I can tell you what tool to use now.
Yeah.
Right. And there's different tools for different functions, but I can tell you what the stack looks like now, but I can guarantee it's going to change.
Yeah.
But if you activate your people and your PMs and your designers and your engineers to be just comfortable using AI, then tools become almost irrelevant,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
I had even, just my personal use of these things. I was building something on Lovable. Great platform,
yeah,
super impressive. It's great. And then I saw people talking about Base 44.
oh
So
yes,
just
yeah,
literally took the same prompt I had in Lovable and I
yeah,
copied it to Base 44 and I ran it and it worked really well.
yeah,
And so it's that frictionless
yeah,
experience, at least for now, like you said,
yes.
that
Have you tried magic patterns?
I have not. No.
Try that one. So
I'll
I
put
like
that on my
Lovable.
list.
I still like Bolt the best if you have tried Bolt. Lovable is good. Base 44 is good as well. Magic Pattern, really a lot of my designers use Magic Patterns because it's great for brainstorming, right? You can take one design and say, give me 5 designs that are options like this, and
Hmm,
it does a lot of great things.
cool.
Um,
Check it out.
do you see other? So one of the trends that we see is that we see a lot more engineering managers gravitate towards more on the product side, right? Um, one of the things, and one of the things that I said last year, which was quite controversial, is that actually when building things become easier, just like what we talked about, I think deciding what to build becomes harder,
Mhm.
right? Because now you really have to say, okay, what's my market? What do my customers want? And yes, you can build something quickly, but understanding what they want is harder. And so I see the PM function becoming more and more because they're the deciders, quote unquote, right? And I see more and more people moving and gravitating towards the PM function, um, especially from engineering, even from design.
Mhm.
Um, I'm wondering if you see something similar happening within your organization.
Yeah, that could be another half-hour conversation. So I'll try to be fairly brief on it. But um, up until a few years ago, product was not a path that you went to school for.
Yeah,
Everyone came to it from a different path. Um, and you were fortunate enough that someone gave you a chance to do something different, right? If you were an engineer, then moving into product, or marketing and moved into
yeah,
product, so forth. I think in the end, what makes a successful product person is someone who, a lot of people talk about it as thinking like the GM, but I think about it as thinking of the 360-degree view of the business.
yeah,
Because it's easy to make a decision if you're looking through one lens. This is
100%.
important for us to do now. But you have to put it in the context of the whole business. What's
Yes,
most important for the business right now? Growing, improving retention, driving growth, improving pricing discipline, so
yes,
on and so forth. You have to put your decision in the right context there. And so I think anyone can get there, whether you came from engineering or some other
100%.
walk of life.
Yeah,
But if the idea is just, I can make the decisions because I'm in product and so I want to go into product, I think that may not end up yielding the
mhm,
best product people in
yeah.
the end. They have to think about the whole business.
Well, I agree. I think deciding what to build, you can't do that if you have a very narrow point of view, right? You have to think about all your customers, your competitors, and of course your company. The 3 C's, classic McKinsey
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
if you don't get that, then you really are very narrow now and with the narrow lens. The good news is that now you can actually have AI help you look at it from a 360 perspective,
Right.
right?
Right.
So just like you guys use synthetic personas, we have customers who use synthetic competitors to figure out what the
Mm.
competition is going to do,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
or even synthetic internal stakeholders, right? To do that too.
Yeah.
So that just changes the game,
Yeah. I love that. That's a great idea.
right?
We have
And-
someone on the team who built a sales coach that
yes,
is basically trained on our product pricing, positioning, competitive
perfect.
information. And
Yes,
it's a fantastic tool, not just for a salesperson, but for any of us to go
anyone.
and
Yeah,
question,
I mean, we had the existing client that we have right now. The CIO ended up building a digital twin of the CEO, and he's leveraging that to figure out how he can actually cater to him better. And by the way, he's very public about it too. And he's like, "Listen, I use this, and here's how I actually built a digital twin of Mike." And by the way, he talked to Mike about it too, and Mike's like, "This is fantastic. This is one of the best." uh, this is much more closer to what I was looking for, and you answered the question. So it just, like I said, there's tons that you can do.
Yeah.
Matt, we're almost out of time. Like I said, these I love these conversations. So I'm going to ask you a last question, just because, just from what you shared earlier about how you use Lovable and all of these, and Base 44 and all the other tools. Tell me how you use AI personally, either for work or at home,
Yeah.
and what is it for? If there's any other hacks you want to share with our audience.
Yeah. I'll start with the obvious one. We have an enterprise license for ChatGPT, which I find immensely helpful because you can just put all of your company data in there and talk about speeding things up. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a go-to on a daily basis. I have a 3-monitor setup. ChatGPT has moved to the center monitor.
I love it.
Pretty frequent. I shared, in terms of vibe coding, using some of those products, Base 44, Lovable, Cursor, and others. And then also doing some experimentation around agents and building, like your example of the CIO and CEO, building some agent personas and seeing whether that could potentially bring us some value as well.
We can talk more. Because I actually think the new capabilities, I know a lot of people focus on prototyping. I actually think that if you can build digital twins well, that allows you to look around corners.
Yeah.
Right. We started this conversation talking about self-driving cars and how they can look around corners.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think if you can build a good digital twin, you can literally look around corners.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a brand new capability we've never had before.
Right.
Right. That just changes the game. Matt, we will have to do this again, because I would love to have you come back a year from now and tell me how things are going, or maybe even, a year might be too long given the way things are. But thank you so much for being on this. This is fantastic.
This was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And by the way, kudos. I will tell you, I talked to a lot of CPOs, your mindset, and we did a whole benchmarking, which you and I talked about too. The mindset and the way you guys are approaching, I think, is fantastic. I wish more and more would adopt to that. So it's awesome for you and your team.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Bye for now.